Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to talk about a very important topic, which is burnout. And this is a question that came to me from one of my members of our Burnout family. And I was really happy that it did, actually, because it is such a big issue for women. And I think that one of the things that we're dealing with in the Western world is that we are kind of reclaiming our power as women. And I guess what do I mean by that? I mean that we are coming to really basically reclaim the way that we move our power, the way that we are in the world. And in this way we're sort of stretching ourselves a little bit more. And when that is happening to human beings, ultimately there is the possibility that we stretch too far, we go overboard, we're trying to find our balance, we don't really know exactly how to make it happen. For me, The Power Shift was a book that was written to help women with this very, very issue, because one of the things that is absolutely key is that when we are trying to solve an issue, when we're trying to work through something like a burnout, we don't want to just be clipping the weeds out of our garden and breaking them and not taking out the root system. We want to really just very kindly and gently be pulling out the weed that is causing this issue, but we want to kindly and gently pull it out and let the whole root system come up and be removed. Otherwise, we find that these patterns continue to come back over and over again, and they will come back when we're under a lot of pressure. So if we're triggered internally, whether it's by a belief, normally that's what we're triggered by, some ideal that we have and we're triggered, a lot of the time what will happen, sadly, and it's not even actually sadly, I don't want to put that sort of idea on it, it's just that at that point we're going to be triggered and we have an opportunity. So we have an opportunity to really work out what's going on in our inner world. And of course, most of you, or many of you, know that my day job is in the training beauty professionals in the brow industry and in the beauty industry and mentoring them as they grow out their businesses. And it's quite extraordinary to see these amazing women doing so many things. And it's true. You know, I see it with business women in all areas of business, not just in beauty, but all of a sudden they're not just wives and mothers, they're also business owners. For some, they're team members wanting to do an extraordinary job for the brand that they're representing. And, you know, the list just goes on. They're doing all these things. They're a friend, they've got a family to take care of, extended families a lot of the time. And then, of course, life gives us all these external issues that seem to be coming in from the outside towards us. And, you know, we micromanage a lot, and burnout has got so much to do with this whole idea of micromanaging our life. So I want to just really look at what burnout is. You know, it's got many, many names, and we can call it adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue. It's kind of like the mystery illnesses that we deal with a lot of the time. Fibromyalgia is another really huge one for women. And a lot of the time when we're really trying to control our experience through external means, and we're sort of almost like we've left home a little bit, you know, our internal landscape, our internal world, and we're focusing on the outside, thinking that somehow if we change the outside, we're going to be okay on the inside. To me, that just really is just absolute insanity, and it can lead to nothing else but really burning out. And the reason for that is because we're using principles to live by that are just completely false. So, you know, if you were to say to me, well, Al, you know, where do I start? And the first place that you really need to begin with is just looking at what you're actually working towards. What are you doing it for? You know, when you really think about when you're really thinking about burnout, and you think to yourself, you know, what am I chasing? What is it that is more important than the peace that within? And what am I doing that? What am I trying to micromanage that really, in reality, is completely out of my control? And I'm just on turbocharge all the time. And you want to really look at that. You really want to look at being on turbocharge, it's like having a car that is constantly on, it's a sort of turbocharged car and it never goes in for a service. It never, ever goes in for a checkup. What's going to happen? Ultimately, it's going to the pieces are going to wear out, and it's going to actually not be on high performance. It's not going to be able to perform at its optimum level. So I really want you to think about that and ask yourself the question: what am I actually valuing more than my own inner peace? What am I giving my peace away for, and is it worth it? So one of the things that, we go into turbocharge, we become like a turbocharged car, is because we're chasing something, we're chasing another ideal. We're thinking that our happiness is actually dependent on some external circumstance. And that is an absolute fallacy. That is one of the biggest lies the ego is going to actually offer you, that somehow when you change something on the outside that you're going to be okay inwardly, and that one day you're going to be happy when you get there. And we just kind of go like this little hamster on the hamster wheel. Now, is it worth actually changing our behaviours? Absolutely it is, but it isn't. That's when we're changing our behaviour, what we're actually really doing is we're pulling out the weed out of our garden, but not pulling the root system out as well. And I want you to do both. I want you to recognise that your thinking and the way that you're actually seeing life and the principles that you're using to live your life are what has to come first. Isn't that amazing that you could change one? You can actually see through a false principle that you're using, being that, somehow somewhere outside of you're going to change something and then you're going to get happy, or then you're going to find peace, or then you're going to be able to rest. That actual false principle is keeping that momentum going where you feel like you just can't stop. And once you start to see through the ego, the egoic thought system that is always available to us, just as much as love is, just as much as our peace never leaves us. It's always sitting there waiting for us to turn around and give it a big hug. So is the egoic thought system. That's our choice. We're either going to go to one or we're going to go to the other. And sometimes what's really, really important is to be able to actually see through it's always important to be able to see through the egoic thought system. And when you start to see through it, it no longer has power over you. You no longer feel like you're on that sort of treadmill that you can't get off. You're no longer like that little hamster on the hamster wheel. You actually literally can begin to power shift your way to what is peaceful. Now, last week I put up a really beautiful song, for example, that I used to love meditating to, and I highly recommend it. Go find it. It's just in the news feed, in the feed on my page, and you will actually be able to put that on and put it on in your home. Let your children listen to it. It's got beautiful lyrics. It's got really beautiful language, and I'm going to put more and more of these kinds of things up for you so that you can actually change what you're listening to in the outside world. Just being able to change the music that you're listening to, whether you listen to the news. If you're suffering from burnout, you do need to create some changes, behavioral changes, but they can't be the one and only thing that you're actually doing. You do need to actually change more than just that. So let me give you an example. Our bodies, when we're in burnout mode or we're heading in that direction, what we really need to look at is also the foods that we're eating. And a lot of the time when we're out of balance or we're in burnout mode, we tend to be attracted to foods that really don't work for us. So we want to go for the starchy carbohydrates like potatoes and pasta. We tend to lean more into sugary treats and things because we're just out of balance. And all of that does is sort of puts our body into glucose, puts more glucose into our body. It's like pushing glucose, and our body has to start using glucose as a fuel. It's very, very detrimental to your overall health and your well-being. And I'm going to talk more about this. I'm going to give you a couple of books next week that I think are absolutely paramount. In fact, I might even put them into the comments below, and I want to talk more about them. So for probably the last 7 years, probably even more, actually, probably about 8 or 9 years, I've actually been eating to to actually change the way the fuel that my body uses. So I have a very high good fat diet, and I stay well away from, starchy carbohydrates and sugars. And I found that my body really just doesn't need them and doesn't even crave them. So it's really quite amazing when you can get your body to a state where it actually is burning fat instead of burning glucose. Again, when we're burning glucose, I want you to think about this. It's like that turbocharged car where, we are just going, like this machine, this poor body is just going, and we never take it in for a service. Whereas when you're actually doing it a little bit differently and your body is burning fat for fuel, which is absolutely fantastic because you'll stay slimmer, you'll be able to have more energy, you won't need to eat as much food. It's amazing what happens to you and to your health and your well-being and your mental health. You have so much more control, real control over the food that you're going to eat, the choices that you're going to make, and the energy levels that you have. And, one of the biggest things that we need our body to do is to go into maintenance and repair. And when we're actually running our bodies on fat rather than running them on glucose, our body is in maintenance and repair. So it's actually able to take care of itself. So a lot of you, as I said before, you know that I'm in the beauty industry. So skin has been one of the most amazing and significant things for me over the last 30 years. And again, how do you keep your skin healthy? We want to talk about that too. How do you do that? You do that by making sure that the acid mantle of your skin, which is the protective, it's actually what takes care of your skin. So it helps your skin from not dehydrating fast or from bad bacteria. All of these things are principle-based learning. If you run your life through principles, everything seems to change. So that's why the power shift is about 5 principles that will change your life. So I want you to think about that if you're running your life by false principles, you will burn out. You will be unhappy. You are going to be up against something or think that you are all the time. So, it's really, really important to understand that. And we're going to keep talking about burnout. What's exercise got to do with burnout? Well, if you're in burnout mode, you've got a lot of adrenaline going on in your body. Sometimes we can even get to burnout when we're exercising too much. So we have to really take a look at that. Are we pushing ourselves too much? So we can actually create really beautiful, amazing lives without this push. And as I said before, we're reclaiming our power in the world. Women are coming, we were at home in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, for decades, centuries, taking care of the family. And now we've stepped into, trying to figure it out. We've gone through the feminist movement. We're thinking that somehow, we've got to be like men so that we can be okay and that we can actually achieve our goals. We don't have to do that. We want to reclaim our real power. We want to reclaim our feminine power, our feminine energy, which is the most beautiful energy in the universe. We want to reclaim that, but we need to do it in a way that is honest and is true. So we need to look at the principles that are guiding us, the principles, the foundational principles that we're using so that we can actually make that a reality. So I hope that this has been fun. I hope it's been revealing to you and given you some new insights. And I'm going to put the 2 books that I really want you to look at, apart from The Power Shift, of course, as the #1 book. But I'm going to put another 2 books down because, I think every single woman, every single mother, every single auntie, whatever, needs to actually have this incredible knowledge with her. She needs to know, you need to understand. When you have this incredible common sense logic about your health and your well-being, it will amaze you. And, people are always saying to me, oh, Al, you're nearly 54. This is true. How come you're looking so well? Well, I do certain things, and I'm going to share them all with you, every single one of them. And as I keep learning, I'm going to keep giving you that too. So I hope this has been helpful. And please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'd love to hear about, how you feel about certain parts of your behavior when it comes to burnout. Are you experiencing it? What do you do? And most importantly, please go back to pulling that weed all the way out from its root system very, very delicately and very gently, and have a think about what is it that you're chasing? What is it that kicks that burnout momentum into play for you? What triggers you? What is it that you think if you get that, then you're going to be happy? And if that happens, then you're going to be okay and peaceful. Then you can rest. I'm so interested in knowing more about that. So we're going to be back, as I said, again next week with more about burnout. Write your questions down and we'll continue to share together and just be together and learn together. Isn't that amazing? Thank you, everyone. And for those of you watching later, as I said, leave your comments below.